Okay, so today I want to talk a little bit about my practical use of the tarot, um, and how it can differ depending on how I do a reading for someone else in person versus doing a reading for myself. Because these videos are mostly focused on doing readings for myself. But for instance, there's a difference between doing divination. Like with these cards that everyone's familiar with, where you ask a question, beseech randomness, essentially, allow randomness to enter in the cards, and then you get a measure of essentially what the universe is saying to you. But there's a different method that I discovered after a little bit of doing tarot for a couple of years, maybe sort of building relationships with cards. My grandmother, I call her my mama, my dad's mom, gave me this deck, the Toth tarot cards, by Aleister Crowley, accompanied by a book. Now, Aleister Crowley's a little crazy, if you know anything about him. For sure was on some shit. But he was also on to something, a little bit, as far as I'm concerned. For instance, the deck that he made, just to give you a comparison of the cards. These aren't the same card, obviously, but this is the Rider-Waite that one everyone is familiar with. Beautiful, simple, really easy to understand, right? The cup overfloweth, essentially. Right? And then there's the dove coming in, which represents divine inspiration or maybe even protection. We also have control over it with the hand, right? It flows back into the earth. Like, the imagery is very clear. This is also why this deck is excellent for beginners, and why it's easy to read. For me, as somebody who knows a lot, I can use this deck and show this and explain the imagery, and people are really easy for understand it. But when you look at the Queen of Pentacles, or the Queen of Discs, excuse me, number one, obviously, the first thing you notice is the size difference. They don't handle the same, too, because of that. You don't really shuffle them the same. You give them a little bit more respect. And part of what I like to call him the Master Therian, is Aleister Crowley underneath with the Master Therian, just because I feel like it's almost respect if he put his name on there, and I believe in the things in this book, then I will refer to him from henceforth as the Master Therian instead of Aleister Crowley. When he made this deck, then this came out, I want to say maybe like 30, 40 years. This came out about 30, 40 years after the one that everyone knows. And this, with it being Thoth, it's also representative of Egyptian tarot. And he talks a lot about how, like, the lineage of tarot and how he was essentially allowed to reveal certain things about the tarot from the hidden masters of this knowledge. And he talks about it in the book, and he references it. It's pretty open. So there's a different weight and power to these cards. So I don't often use them for divination. I have before, and I find that when I do, it even adds that much more weight, which is a part of why you don't really want to do it. Because these cards have power. Not just the cards themselves, the design of them, but these ones specifically. My mama had this deck since she was a young woman, to the point where, like, my dad has told me he remembers seeing this image here when he was a kid. And my mama is the one who's led me along this path through the tarot as well. So there's a lot of personal weight to every time I even touch the cards, every time I look at them. There's a lineage. There's a tradition of practice as well that I have to follow, which was given to me by ancestors, So, and I wasn't always into the tarot, right? I didn't really get into it and really start researching and using them and building a relationship with each card until I was in my, maybe like 23, 24. So relatively recent, but since then it's propelled my spiritual journey. Like there's a direct line from me touching tarot cards for the first time and realizing I'm non-binary. Because there is no gender in the tarot. Right? There's the Emperor and the Empress, and these are energies that exist within all of us. You know, even that concept was freeing to someone like me. Part of this being a tool, this deck being a tool for my spiritual journey, is that I don't ask it questions. For instance, I did a reading last night, which I have spread out here, which I'm going to get into. I did a reading last night. I was just honestly sitting on my on my balcony with my kitty. He's right there. Yes, hey buddy. Oh buddy. He's sleeping. That's cochon. We were just sitting, almost meditating together, just looking at the stars. And I do this a lot. I try to spend as much time as I can just being. And it's hard, but I'm just sitting there. My mind is empty, almost purposely empty. And then all of a sudden, I have to do a reading with the deck right now. It needs me to do it. Right? Now you could chalk that up to me just, being on the journey. I'm here, right? You could chalk it up to whatever. But here, on this, that's almost like seeing something in the flames within. And you may apply some meaning to it, and someone else may look at the flame and just see flame, but part of how we generate meaning is that it's relative to the person who's generating the meaning. But here's the weird part. So in your astrological natal chart, at the moment you're born, essentially the snapshot of the stars, right? Tells a lot about who you are at the moment of your birth, your essence. But I found out recently that there is something called a progressed chart, where essentially you count each day or each year that passes as a day or something. In fact, I don't really know exactly how it works because my digits do not compute in my brain. Essentially, your chart changes, and it follows the same path as the zodiac signs. So, for instance, you can move from Pisces into Aries in your progressive chart, despite the fact that your natal chart remains the same. In the Book of Thoth, and actually, before I even start talking about the Book of Thoth, let me actually talk about the reading first. So in the past, I got the Queen of Discs, which I've already showed you. I will get to the imagery in this. The present, I have the Prince of Discs. The feature was the Chariot. I love this fucking card. And on the bottom of the deck was Strength inverted. Now, with the full giggling behind it. Funnily enough. This Queen of Discs here. You can see he looks forward almost towards the reader, towards something, but she looks towards the background. And Discs represents Earth. She looks towards, and she holds the true disc within her arm and a scepter connected to this shape here. And she looks out onto the desert. And it's almost barren, but there's a river flowing through it, bringing to it fertility. This represents, and she's focused on the background. And it represents the physical realm also participating in the great work. Now, this concept of the great work is essentially, I guess, the collective spiritual elevation of our entire species. And it's something that we've been all going through, right? Another way to put the great work is that, like, Jesus and Buddha were the greatest teachers of the great work, of how to participate in it. But this card to me represents a lot of what I've been talking about, which is that everything that is visible is a reflection of what is invisible. And the physical realm wants to participate in the great work. And the instructions are there. If you're willing, if you have eyes to see and discerning ears. And that's too, that kind of relates to what I'm talking about generating meaning. You know? Let me get into the book now, actually. Yes, the ambition of Aleister Crowley. I'm sorry, Master Therian says the ambition of matter to take part in the great work of creation, and she's the mother of this energy. And here I see in the past, my approach to my spirituality was whatever was adequate. You know, whatever I needed to get through the day. And I was hardworking. Like in my early 20s, like I dropped out of high school because I had missed so much school that they were going to make me go repeat, even though I didn't have that bad of grades. Actually, I may have been failing. I don't really remember. Either way, my dad was like, okay, well, if you're not going to go to school, you have to go to work, like, instantly. And then I spent all of my early 20s just working as hard as I could in the restaurant industry. I even worked at UPS for a little bit. My life was consumed by that. My life was also consumed by who I was perceived as at work as well. And I was pretty much abusing drugs the entire time. Not like terribly, not horrible shit, but I wasn't treating my body with respect. And yet, I was still working. Like, that was always a part of the path. Because everything is fuel for the fire. You know, but my life was mechanical. But I needed that. I needed that context. I needed almost, I guess, that foundation. And honestly, I probably just needed to I needed to fucking work. I needed to work my hands. And because that's part of the thing I'm learning too, is like, I can sit in silence in the quiet wholeness and feel connection to divinity, but I also have to bring it into motion in order to really integrate. Now, the weird thing, and the reason why I brought up the progressive chart, is that the Queen of Discs rules from the 21st degree of Sagittarius to the 20th degree of Capricornius. My ascendant sign is Sagittarius, and it is moving into Capricorn. Right about now. Or, like, you know, in the next couple months. Right, so I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, let me just go do this reading real quick. I just got an intuition to go do it. I'm like, I've been reading about my progressive chart all night before I did the reading. And then I get, okay, that's kind of weird. At the very least, that's a weird coincidence. Cool. On to the next card, right? The Prince of Discs, which is technically the next card in the deck, directly after the Queen of Discs. As a side note, the Queen of Discs, and this is, I think, is important, the Queen of Discs represents the watery part of Earth, the watery part within the Earth. And the Prince of Discs represents the air of Earth. He is meditative. His eyes almost closed, focused on his goal. He's so focused on his goal that everything else falls by the wayside. That's the representation. That's why he's pulled by the bull. I'm sorry, Knox. So this represents a sort of, I guess, accomplishment. And part of getting to know the tarot is understanding the different correspondences, right? So whenever we talk about kings, queens, princes, and princesses, it follows the four elements, but it also follows the four steps of alchemy. Now, there are four stages of alchemy. There's the blackening, the whitening, the yellowing, and the reddening. I believe that's how that works. I'm almost positive. And so the same thing kind of follows along with the elements. And part of focusing on this stuff is, for me at least, is that's the power of a mystery. It's not supposed to provide you like with an answer instantly. The mystery places you in a point of quiet wholeness. All right, so this is that airy part of Earth. It's like it. This is it's almost like driven towards a goal so much that it makes you stupid. But it has a purpose, and that's kind of where I see myself right now. My spirituality. Like, that's why I'm posting every day. Because I've moved into this direct feeling era of my spirituality into an active, periodic, steadfast effort being put towards it every day. You know? Like an active embodiment of the spiritual journey. And Aleister, the Master Therian does some weird shit. Randomly sprinkled into not even all of them, but only some of the cards, he will talk about these intensely transformative viewpoints. And I kind of want to quote him a little bit from the Book of Thoth. He says, the error of Christian mystics. Oh, I'm sorry. The fundamental heresy of religious dogma, which I know a lot of us have been perturbed by, is contempt for the world, the flesh, and the devil, all of which are essential to the plan of the universe. It is cardinal to the great work for the adept so to order affairs that even the evil germs of matter shall alike become useful and good. This is about everything being fuel for the fire. That almost the purpose of the adept, like someone like me who is every day putting direct effort towards a specific spiritual goal, is putting myself in a space of being able to convert and alchemize everything. He goes on, he says, the error of Christian mystics on this point has been responsible for more cruelty, misery, and collective insanity than all others put together. Its poison can be traced even in the teaching of Freud, who assumed that the unconscious was the devil, where in fact it is the instinct, which expresses beneath a veil the inherent point of view of each, and once properly understood, is the key to initiation. That's like what I was talking about yesterday, about the dysphoria I feel about being a genderless, soulful being within this male body and this incarnation. Instead of being a burden, it becoming fuel for the inner forge. Once you understand that, and I almost don't want to put it this way, but this is the way it's coming to me, the things that make you wretched are also a part of what makes you beautiful. Because every part of you has been created for a reason, to teach you a lesson. That's why all this fucking hair on my body is part of the curriculum, despite the fact that I want to tear that shit out of me. That's the point. And I feel so weird. It's so crazy. Like, you see I'm wearing this muumuu, right? I put on just a regular long sleeve and some shorts earlier with my chains. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I was appalled because I didn't recognize it. And then I took all that shit off and put this on. And I was like, God damn, you're beautiful. And then the inspiration for this video came. That is not, I'm laughing about it, but it's not, that is how I get in contact with divinity. By putting this on and making a video. It's crazy. Yep. Anyways, continuing though. Oh, no. When I was talking about the progressive chart. So I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. Then I look, this feels very, very relative to how I've been feeling about it. And then I look at the Prince of Discs. And the Prince of Discs rules from the 21st degree of Aries to the 20th degree of Taurus. My sun sign is moving from Aries into Taurus. Right about the same time that my rising sign is progressively moving into Capricorn from Sagittarius. So that's weird, right? Especially considering the fact that I got the intuition to come and make this reading. And this is different from divination. This is what I'm trying to illustrate. Like, I didn't have a question. The universe called out to me and said it was time. And the cards lined up with everything. Because what is here in the future but the Chariot? The first time I ever shuffled a tarot deck. Maybe a couple seconds in, this card fell out. And let's talk about the imagery of this card too, right? You see the four pillars here. They hold up the sky. They are the four foundations of the universe itself. And the carriage is drawn by these creatures. And what you'll notice is that there's, right, like a sphinx, an ox, a bird, and a man. But their feet are switched around. So what this sort of says is that within 4, there is also 16. And that and he's not driving the carriage, do you see? It moves itself because the system works in perfect harmony. And in the center there is, the Master Therian refers to it as the Holy Grail. And this is a very strange fucking card, okay? This is a weird card just on the imagery. And even when you go read what he says about it, you're like, what is he talking about? But that's the point of a mystery. You don't contemplate mysteries to discover the truth behind them. You contemplate them because their truth sets you within that quiet wholeness. The moment where you're unsure is the moment to pause and sit. And from that place is where I got the intuition to make the reading, to do the reading. It is from that place that everything is born. and the breath animates it. And with the inverted strength at the bottom of the deck, I mean, this is my vulnerability is strength. That's me coming on here and bearing my heart every day. That's what I have to do. I have to be raw. I have to just do me and not really even worry that much about it. And the Fool giggles from behind. Oh my God. And Temperance beneath her. Now, speaking of mysteries, this is actually insane because I didn't actually realize that. I did not know that the Temperance was underneath this. Okay. According to Aleister Crowley, the greatest mystery of the tarot in this modern age is the interaction between the Fool and Temperance. This is fucking wild. I can't believe Temperance was underneath. So that's the nature of a mystery, right? And that's kind of my problem with... That's a part of why I think I left the Catholic Church. Because they wanted to fucking tell me what God was. But God doesn't have words. God is a mystery. That once you contemplate it, it puts you... It makes you like it. It alters you just by considering it. These are the male and female energies, right? This is nothingness, pure potential. And the balance between everything. You see how she has the scales? It's within the diamond, and the world's all outside of her. The blade in the center. She controls all energy. She controls the energy flow of nothingness. What appears out of the Fool? The power in my house just surged. And this is the thing. It's like, this is making me think of a conversation I had with my brother. At the beginning of it, he said to me, I asked him about his spirituality, because, that's what I do, I guess. And he told me that he was an agnostic on the atheist side. And I said, okay, that's interesting. Let's talk about what, I'll tell you about what I believe, and then we'll see what lines up. I mean, by the end of the conversation, he was like, holy shit, I might be spiritual. Like, what I just naturally can intuit logically is a spiritual belief. And I don't even really want to get into what he believes, but the point I'm trying to make here is that the reason he thought he was agnostic or atheistic was because he, like I, and like many of us, had been sold this idea of what it means to buy wholesale into a belief. Right? Because, bullshit requires your participation in it in order for it to stay alive. But the truth does not. The truth requires no words or symbols. The truth and what makes you human is does your heart beat? Does it beat like a drum that demands voice? Does your blood demand justice? Do you ache to be seen? Even those words are just going around the point. Because I don't really need to tell you. Because what I'm talking about, you can find within, and that's the only place to find it. We're not supposed to have the answers. This body is not an answer. This body is a relationship. This body is a relationship with nature. It's a relationship to meaning itself with the universe. It's supposed to be a mystery. By contemplating the mysteries, we understand ourselves. We know ourselves. Yeah. days. That was awesome. Thank you. I love you. I'll see you later.